Nice.
Okay, so we are live. It's Friday night. Thankfully, it is the Boozy Book Rods. We're so excited. Thank you, Marissa, for getting us started. So we are so excited. We were just saying off air that we are so excited to have Jennie Conway on from St. Martin's Press. And she is kind of our first, aside from authors, she's our first industry professional. So welcome, Jennie. Cheers to you.
Thank you.
Here.
Thank you. Cheers. So happy to be here.
So before we jump right into our very fun discussion, I want to remind everyone, as always, to go to lovesweetarrow.com to find out information about buying books. They are awesome about ordering books that aren't even in stock. They can get them to you no matter what. You can find links to future events. I just want to say Love Sweet Arrow is keeping the virtual events going. Thanks to one very special guest here, Melanie Johnson. I think you're like almost every event.
No. They have lots of really great. Next Friday, they've got a great one coming up that I have nothing to do with.
But yeah, I mean, and I know we're doing an LSA event later in the summer together.
August 6th, yep, we've got that. We really haven't talked about that one that much yet, but it's going to be a fun one.
It's going to be really good. So everybody definitely go there, which leads me, I want to go right into what the merch of the month is this month, because it's the same as last month, but it's very exciting merch of the month because it is the sultry summer surprise boxes, which the Boozy Book Rods, we each curated a box with Love Sweet Arrow. And as always, we have a discount, and it's BBB July discount for 15% off on the summer boxes, which is really fun. We had a great time putting them together. We each picked different books to include, and so you can pick an Angelina, a Danielle, a Melanie. They're very fun. They're very cute. They have really fun treats. I don't want to give away too much about what's in it, but if you're
on Twitter, people are starting to post their boxes, so you might get a sneak peek at what are in the boxes. But yeah, so each of us curated a box. So we picked a trade paperback, a mass market paperback, and a Harlequin. You really can't go wrong because we all did a great job picking great books. Yeah. And we also have a exclusive candle made by Novelly Yours called Sexy Books on the Beach. And it smells so good. It smells like a sex on the beach cocktail. So, I mean, I would buy the box just for the candle.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing. Oh, I'm sorry. I misspoke. It's 10% off. I got excited and said 15. Thank you for correcting me, Marissa. And so Melanie jumped right in. She is our room mom tonight. But before she's on duty, I want to have a little toast for Melanie because number one, her editor is here. Number two, she just had a book come out last week. So congratulations, because Too Good to Be Real is here. So cheers again.
Thank you.
We're so excited for you.
Cheers, Melanie.
Thank you.
So I really hope everybody run out and get Melanie's book. Congrats. This is your 4th full-length book to be published, which is amazing. I'm so proud. So congrats.
And congrats to Jennie, because she's been on the journey with me for every single book.
But editing Melanie is a joy. I'm sure we'll talk about that more, but all of her books. I love reading them. They're so good.
That's awesome. I agree. I completely agree. So let's go around. We'll do our usual introductions. And Jennie suggested having a strawberry margarita. I think we're all having them, which may be one of the first times we've all had the drink.
I agree. I think it may be one of the first times. So
yeah.
Angelina's looks so perfect. It's like you went to the restaurant and they delivered it. It's so good.
So let's go around. So Jennie, you're our guest of honor. That means I'm going to pick on you to go first for almost every question. So you start us off, introduce yourself, and just let us know who you are.
I'm Jennie. I'm an editor at St. Martin's Press. I've been there for about 6 years, and I edit both adult and young adult fiction.
Amazing. That's so cool. Yeah, we're going to talk a little bit more later about like how you got started and all that great stuff, because like I was saying also off air, I'm very nosy. I like to ask questions, so this is going to be fun. Melanie, why don't don't you introduce yourself?
I'm Melanie Johnson. If you've been watching the Boozy Book Broads for a while, you know all of us.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I write contemporary romance, and Too Good to Be Real was a little bit of a shift into more of a rom-com than the traditional contemporary romances that I was writing before. And I call it my pandemic escape hatch because it was what I kind of escaped into during a very rough time. So yeah, I'm here, and I'm breaking the rules. I had fresh strawberries ready to go, washed and ready to hit the blender, and so I'm actually having it's a mango lemonade with vodka.
Yum.
In a Star Wars glass.
Yeah, tropical. I think it still counts. So, and Angelina, of course, please introduce yourself.
I'm Angelina M. Lopez. I write sexy books about strong women and the confident men who love them. My third book in the Filthy Rich series, Serving Sin, came out May 25th. Jennie, I don't know if you remember, but you and I have met I think we met at a Washington Romance Writers.
Yes, I was about to say, it was the one in Maryland, right? That was a fun conference.
And I always tell these writing organizations, these romance organizations are, I think, specific in the genre writing world because it gives you an opportunity to get to know people, to get to know industry people before you're published. And it was those organizations were always a tremendous benefit to me. And I know Melanie got a lot out of them. And so, but yeah, getting an opportunity to meet an editor before you're published is like awesome, and hear from them and that kind of thing. So Jennie, thank you for always participating in those and like giving us your wisdom, because it was, and as you're doing tonight, but that's always like hearing from industry people along the journey instead of just after. I think it's so beneficial. And I do think it's one of those specific traits that romance offers that not every genre does. And I'm proud of that.
Yeah, absolutely. 100% agree.
I know, isn't it so exciting too? Like, I know, Melanie, you recently announced that you're going to a writers conference in early 2022, correct?
I will be at Coastal Magic in Daytona Beach in February 2022. I know, leave Chicago for Daytona, twist my arm.
I know.
February.
Yeah, and we're just getting more even.
That'll be like the first big official conference. I am actually hitting the road at 5 a.m. tomorrow morning for Peoria. It's Writers on the River. I really wanted to go to this because it's an incredible cause. It's for a women's shelter, Healing with Words. They do some really great things. So I'm driving down to that for it's just like a one-day kind of author reader book signing, and several authors that I know and love will be there. So Kate Bateman, who's also one of Jennie's authors, will be there. So I'm excited to see her.
Yeah, I'm so thrilled that like writer conferences are starting
to happen.
slowly,
And we still have to wear masks at this signing. So, there's still precautions and things, but to see that in person, I've missed it.
Yeah, same. Okay, so I want to remind everyone who's watching right now, if you have questions for Jennie, there's still time to get them in. So anything you want to know, you want to pick the brain of a traditional or an editor for a traditional publisher, please put them in the chat. We'll be monitoring them. We've got a few all ready to go. So this is just, we're going to have fun. We're going to go right into our shots. I made up our shot icebreaker questions today, and they're all really good. So I think everyone in the chat also should join in because they're fun. But the first one is kind of, I tried to be a little like editorial, like try to think of something. And I said, what genre do you wish was more prevalent in today's marketplace, whether it's romance or outside of romance, whatever you want. So Jennie, and this may be some insight into what you're looking for right now. What do you wish was more prevalent right now in the marketplace?
Okay, so this is very specific. I love really campy, feminist, fun horror movies, and I wish that was more of a genre with books. I just am looking for something like that. That's sort of what I wish I found more of with books.
What's one movie that you can think of that's when you say campy feminine horror movie?
So one of my favorite ones is Ready or Not. And if you like horror movies, it is so over the top, so tongue in cheek, so fun. It's basically about this woman who marries into this very wealthy family. And on the night of the wedding, They are a big gaming family. They have a gaming dynasty, as they call it, and she has to play a game, and the game is hide and seek, and basically they are then hunting her throughout their massive mansion. And it's great. She's in this like massive wedding dress the whole time. It's so funny. It's very gory, and she's a complete badass. So it's so good.
For Halloween, ready or not? Okay.
Yep, that is. I really want to wear that costume for Halloween one year. Yeah. It's on the list.
I am not a romance fan, but my 23-year-old son and my husband would love that movie. So that's the night that I'm like watching rom-coms upstairs, and they get to read. I'm going to suggest that because that sounds awesome.
Yeah. Melanie, what about you? What do you wish was more prevalent in the marketplace?
You know, it's interesting because I'm actually seeing it start to happen. So I really like paranormal rom-coms, like this kind of like combination. Like my first book I wrote like for fun was what I like to call like paranormal grit and contemporary wit, was kind of like, and I'm seeing more of that, and I'm excited about that. Like I'm seeing like these witchy rom-commy books. So it's happening.
Angelina, what about you?
Yeah, I was going to say paranormal too. And I do it. And it's, everybody was like exhausted by the same thing. And now that the alien, or I mean, obviously it's more sci-fi, but it's still like dealing with alternative creatures,
like TikTok,
and the
right?
rules.
It caused those, Angelina, sorry, I just interrupted you, but the blue aliens, the
Robin, love it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
like barbarians, like TikTok, like
but that kind of like it's on alternative creatures, but then it's alternative world rules as well, where you get to do what's always been hard in contemporary. It's like what keeps two people apart, where you're not just talking about your parents. In my books, they're always like, well, my dad, like, and you don't, in paranormal, like you've got these other things that you can draw on to create that conflict and tension. And so, yeah, I'm ready for them back. Eliza Mann it was a Tantor audio.
Yeah, so, and it's vampire
matchmaking service. And she's an agency sister. So I was just like, yes. So it sounds like more what you're talking about, Melanie, with like a little bit of paranormal with the element to it. But yeah, I am ready for that. I think we've had a lot of reality. That's good. We were ready for some new stuff. So yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Paranormal.
I completely agree. That's what I was going to say. I was going to say light paranormal or light fantasy, or maybe like magical realism, but even like magical realism kind of like kicked up a notch, maybe a little bit more. And I think we are, Melanie, I agree. We're seeing it with there are a slew of like witch books coming out, so I think Anna Geary's got Witch Please. Lana Harper has Payback's a Witch. These are all coming out in like the next few months.
Alexis Daria just had What the Heck's come out for audio. And then Jennie, you've got one too coming, don't you?
I was about to say, I have one coming out in February called Not the Witch You Wed by April Asher. That's a whole lot of fun. And I also have one coming out this fall. That's not exactly a witch book. It's more of like demons, where the main character falls in love with the Prince of Hell. It's called Not Your Average Hot Guy by Gwenda Bond. And it's an absolute delight as well.
Awesome. Yeah, that's so fun. So I mean, I feel like we're all kind of on the same wavelength, but then I do like your like feminist horror, Jennie. I think that is like very cool. All right. So my next question is, I want to know your controversial summer barbecue opinions. So I'm going to go first to give everyone an idea, because I really think this will be fun to see what people have to say in the chat. But I cannot stand potato salad. I think it's gross. I'm sorry if I'm yucking anyone's yums. It's not for me. Literally, even like a couple of weeks ago, we went to my parents' house and we had a little barbecue, and my mom texted me. She's like, if potato salad is like the only side, will you eat it? I was like, no. And I'm well into my 30s, and I made her make me something else. I'm terrible. But yeah, so Jennie, what is your controversial summer barbecue opinion?
So mine is very similar to yours. Instead of potato salad, it is macaroni salad. It's the mayonnaise for me that I just don't, it's like too much of it. I also only like a potato salad when I sort of make it my own way that doesn't have mayonnaise in it. It's just I can't do the mayonnaise, especially with pasta. It does not work for me.
I like it. We're on the same wavelength.
We got it.
All right, Melanie, what about you?
Well, and mayonnaise in the heat just isn't a good idea anyway. So like, yeah. So I actually like, I just could sit here and I have like a slew of summer barbecue. Like I hate watermelon. I hate hot dogs.
Guys are like barbecue Scrooges, is what you are. Like,
so we
ruin it for the rest of us.
before times we would do this kickoff because my husband's birthday is right at the end of May. So we would kind of do this Memorial Day / birthday / kind of kickoff summer barbecue at our house every year. And like I was in charge of the food, so I could control like what. So it was, you know, like lots of grilled chicken and cheese and cracker plates and yeah, but no hot dogs in sight.
Yeah, I love that. I think, you know what, I'll eat hot dogs. I don't have to have them, you know what I mean? Like, but they are, I don't know, they're a staple of summer. I feel like I have to.
Yeah, and watermelon, like I'll buy it and cut it up and but I don't know what it is about it. I can't stand it.
Yeah. All right, Angelina. I know now you think we're all grumpy. What about you though?
I literally could not think of anything. Like I like
give it all to me.
I just like I want the gingham blanket on the ground and I want all the people and I want the heat just beating down on me and I want the ants and I want the burgers and I want the hot dogs and the whole like aesthetic. I just love it and I want it. And I love mayo in my potato salad. I love non-mayo. I love macaroni salad. I don't know what you guys are talking about. Maybe on a different show.
That's why it's hot takes. So Hannah Donner said, brown guac, we can do better. She's very upset about the brown guac. I hear you, Hannah. I'm so bad. So I will buy the store-bought guacamole that's like at the deli. So it's not quite store-bought, but it's still, I didn't make it. And then I'll buy extra avocado and cut it up and then put it in.
Yeah, I do that.
That's awesome. I love the store-bought.
And it looks homemade then because you have like the big chunks of fresh avocado.
Yeah. Oh, it's so chunky. I should have mashed it up more.
Exactly. Totally. All right. So I think this one will be really fun, especially I think chatters should join in too. What is your quintessential summer movie? So Jennie, let it go.
Every 4th of July, I watch Independence Day. I would much rather be inside. I mean, my other controversial summer barbecue opinion is that they should take place inside with air conditioning and not outside. So that's what I like to do. So for me, that like just says summer is watching that.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Angelina, what about you?
I love the Kenneth Branagh's Much Ado About Nothing. And it's not inherently a summer movie, but it's just outdoors and beautiful. And it's so like the idealism, and they're all so happy, and then they're all so angry, and they're all so sad, and they're all so passionate. But when they're all happy, they're so happy. And it feeds my soul. And I love that movie. That is my favorite. So, like if I want to feel summertime in like the depths of a blizzard, I will watch that movie.
Yeah.
And everyone is sun-drenched in that movie. Like there's something about the way they filmed it. Everyone just looks like golden gods
and have like their shirts hanging off their gorgeous
and like their boobs are like perfectly placed in these white dresses.
Like they're all just so hot and like
it's a gorgeous film. It's a fun film. I had a poster when I was a high school English teacher. I had a poster of that movie on my wall, and it said like vibrant, sexy romp, and like the word sexy in a room full of 15-year-olds is always.
That's awesome. All right, Melanie, what is your pick?
So I swear, I feel like I just answered this question in like another panel. And like, I remember the other people's answers were really good. Like Tessa Bailey said Jaws, which is like, yes, that's such a summer movie. Although it scared me so bad I wouldn't swim when we went to Florida on a family trip. I wouldn't go in the Gulf of Mexico.
Yeah.
I think Girls Just Want to Have Fun with Sarah Jessica Parker and Helen Hunt is just a really fun summer,
Yeah, I think that's fun. So Jennie took mine because I was going to say Independence Day. See, same wavelength.
We're here. We got this.
But I'm thinking, like, I'm trying to think of another one, and then Much Ado About Nothing is just like one of my go-to like if I'm bored, I put that movie on. But I kind of think of like do you remember the movie Can't Hardly Wait, which it's like they graduate and then they have the big party. So I guess maybe that makes me think a little bit about summer, because it's the start of their last summer before they all go off to college. So
is that like Jennifer Love Hewitt?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I do remember that.
Yeah.
Oh, it's right. And the guy who wants to like talk to her before they're like go. Yes, and that is like the theme of so many movies. I feel like this like before my chance is gone, I have to speak to her kind of thing. So Trisha says Bridesmaids is her favorite.
Oh, that's good.
Hannah is telling us Dirty Dancing, which is yes, that's a perfect summer movie.
That's a
excellent.
Mm-hmm.
That's a perfect pick. I love that. Awesome.
Did anyone see Ronnie Lauren's pictures? Her family went to
The resort.
the place, and she all like she posts pretty conservatively on social media, and she just posted a ton of pictures of baby's cabin and all of that stuff. They were
it's fascinating because, and I think a book came out this summer that was kind of based on those type of resorts, because they were for Jewish people. They were places that they could go as their families could have vacations and kind of be free of like the anti-Semitic behavior of so that's kind of how those like different little summer places cropped up. It's really interesting. Yeah.
That's really fun. I love that. Another great movie. All right. So everyone, again, remember to submit your questions. We will get to as many as we can, any that you have for Jennie or any of us, really. If you have any questions for any of us too, that's totally acceptable. Remember, if you are talking in the chat, you have a chance to win a $10 Love Sweet Arrow gift card. And the more you talk, the more we see your name, the more we may randomly pick it. So that's awesome. So let's move on to the full bottle. So Jennie, now you're in the hot seat. It's just gonna be you and me, but we'll bring the broads in every now and then, and everybody in the chat too. But I think one thing I know I'm always really curious about, because I used to work in publishing. I was a publicist for Source Books, but I love to know how people get started in publishing, because it's either this is what you plan to do, or you just kind of happen into it. So did you want to be an editor from the beginning, or did it just kind of organically happen?
Definitely kind of like a weird mix of both, sort of. I always knew it was going to be books in some way, shape, or form from when I was a kid. I knew it was going to be books. My first job was at a library, and I loved that to pieces. And then went to college and double majored in creative writing and then also journalism and media. And through the writing classes, I realized that I did not want to write anymore myself whatsoever. And I liked instead the times in my workshops when I got to, read my classmates' writing, and, we had to give feedback and write, basically edit letters to them. And I just liked doing that so much more. And I was like, okay, what do I do with this now? And so then started talking with people and sort of ended up interning at a literary agency and started learning about the industry there and loved it. And then I was like, okay, well, I think I want to be an editor, like basically everybody else. And so a few of the agents there had done the Columbia Publishing course. And so they recommended that. And it's this 6-week intensive course over the summer at Columbia University, where half of it is an intensive publishing, and then half of it is magazine and digital publishing. So I went there and loved every bit of it and was like, okay, I want to work with young adult books. That's like my sort of end goal. And then the course ended, and this opening at St. Martin's Press came along to assist 2 editors who worked on primarily adult romance, which I knew nothing about, and was like, okay, sure, like I will take this. I will take this opportunity. And it's 6 years later. It's been great. I developed a huge love of romance, and I was like, why is it taking me so long to realize that this is everything I've ever wanted. But what I love about St. Martin's is I can do both. I can work on the adult romance that I love so much, and then I've also been able to do a lot of young adult fiction as well. So it just sort of naturally evolved as I sort of got older, and it just worked out really great. I'm so happy where I am.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, this is off script. Do you find it hard to go between adult romance and like YA, whether it's romance or just YA and in general? Yeah, like how do you kind of switch your mind frame for that?
You know, it's almost so similar in a way because I tend to look for the same things in both. I look for, you know, very kind of voicey, atmospheric, cinematic stories that have just banter and witty dialogue that just kind of like draws me in. So I feel like my books, all the books I work on sort of have a lot of very similar elements, but it's very nice to maybe edit my kind of dark romantic YA fantasy and then jump into a really fun historical rom-com just to sort of do a bunch of different things. And sort of, I think if I had to edit the same kind of book, everything would just sort of blend together. So I like being able to jump between the two and sort of use different parts of my brain and my likes and stuff as I'm reading each book.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I think that's really interesting. So this is a question I want to ask specifically to Jennie, and then I think also the broads can answer this question and even everyone in the chat, but how do you know from a publishing perspective, Jennie, how do you know when you want to buy a book? And then for us, I think we can answer it as readers, like kind of, and everyone in the chat too, like, how do you know when you want to buy a book? So, but Jennie, specifically for you as an editor, like, what is it that it's like, I'm going to make an offer?
So it's definitely those things that I sort of just mentioned. I want to be drawn in immediately by the atmosphere. I love when like the setting is its own character in a book. And that almost has like this very cinematic feel when I read something. So I want to be drawn in by that. And I want to be drawn in by the dialogue and the characters. I'm an editor I'm more of a commercial editor. I definitely like, you know, a very strong dynamic plot, but then also sort of great, you know, character development. Like if I get hooked in by that, then like I'm in, and then I will do sort of the more businessy side of things where I look at comparable titles, what things are working in the marketplace, and then sort of bring all of that together with my enthusiasm for a book and then present it to the team and say, this is why we should definitely buy this book.
That's awesome. That's such a good, I like that. It's like obviously your own interests, but then also you have to think about like, is this going to sell to the, you know, to a wider audience? I think that's really cool. Is that like a lot of pressure, do you think, like thinking about what other people want to read? Like, you know, like, and
it's a little nerve-wracking, especially when I first was starting to bring books up. I used to just like write full pages of notes to just like remember, like think about as I was talking about it with because, you know, in order for an editor to buy a book, you know, you have to love it, but then you also kind of need the rest of your house to love it too. So I was very nervous at the beginning bringing things up, but now and especially over Zoom, I'm just like, oh, this is fine. I got this now. We're good.
And I think that's such an important part of the process that a lot of aspiring authors don't understand. You have an editor who loves your book, but your editor is then the advocate who then needs to sell it to an entire team, which makes sense when you think about the kind of money that goes into a book being, you know, put on the shelf at Barnes and Noble or included on an Amazon run. You know, it's that you need this entire arm around that supporting it. And I think that process is not quite understood about getting an entire.
I wanted to add to that too, that I didn't understand before all this happened. Like when you like you said, like that's the first step. Getting an editor interested in your book is the first step, and then they have to then take it and get everyone else excited about your book. So the fact that, you know, like Jennie said, like she is the advocate, the cheerleader for what she loves, and she's a fantastic cheerleader, which is, you know, which was wonderful when she talks about like loving your book. But I didn't understand all those pieces either, and I think that's an important piece of the traditional publishing process, that
Mhm.
you know, a lot of newer authors or who are just getting into it don't understand, like all it's like. And I think if I knew all the hoops that had to be jumped through to get to the end game, I don't know if I'm glad I didn't know. um and what I think that also that means is that there has to be kind of like this juxtaposition of an editor loving it and of the market being right for it, you know. So you could have an amazing book and an editor could absolutely love this book, and it just might not find its right place in the market, and that doesn't mean that the book isn't good. So if you're out there and you're submitting and you're querying and you're not hitting, it's not necessarily the book itself. So there's all these pieces that you can't control.
Yeah. I agree. I think that is one of kind, not, I don't want to say it's a secret thing about publishing, but it's definitely one of those things that I don't think a lot of people know kind of until they're in the thick of things. So I'm very grateful that you both kind of pointed that out. So for Angelina and Melanie and myself and everyone in the chat too, it's like, what I think on the flip side, it's kind of like, how do you know when you're going to buy, when you decide to buy a book, you know? So Angelina, what is it for you that usually has to click for you to be like, I'm going to buy this?
I really like what Jennie said, that the setting is its own
Mm-hmm.
element of a book, that it, one of the things that always strikes me, and especially when I'm assessing romance novels, outside of romance, it can kind of be really loosey-goosey, but within a romance, it's the obvious that no one's ever done before. And I was just looking on Twitter because we just did, Carina Press did its annual pitch. We do a Twitter pitch called Carina Pitch. And I retweeted a couple that I was just like, oh my God, that's a great idea. And one was from Kim Golden, and it was a feisty bookseller. And this, how does she put it? She said she has no patience for rich pricks like Vigo. He's a posh Swede and he wants to buy her bookstore. And just posh Swede dickhead who wants to buy somebody's bookstore. I was just like, can I read it right now? Like and what I was just assessing, like, what did I retweet? And they all had really intense conflict in them, which is again, a very specific romance element, which is what, if you're writing contemporary romance, at least, what can keep these two people apart that is not just, you know, what my daddy did, which is again what I rely on a lot, my parents. But I, you know, really intense conflict, but it's that plot that you're like, oh my God, of course, but nobody else has done it yet, you know, that I really, really am drawn to.
Yeah. Melanie, what about you?
So what makes me want to like buy a book? Like,
yeah.
Good. I admit sometimes I'm a sucker for a cover. Like that's all it can take sometimes. That's perfectly you know, fair that happens. I think sometimes like Angelina said, it's something that'll be like, oh, that's different. Where I haven't heard of it before. Or I'm trying to think of something recently. Oh, so there was a book I saw recommended about a necklace, the lost necklace, or something about a necklace. And that like there was that like thread of intrigue that pulled me in, and like, okay, I want to read this book. So yeah. So I definitely will read the blurbs, and like if it's something that makes me want to read more, then I get pulled in.
Yeah, I agree. I think everything. I'm cheating. Everyone has already kind of said what I was going to say though, because I think it's a combination. It's like, does the blurb pull you in? Does the cover work? Is there conflict? It's kind of like all of the above. But I also think that something that I don't like to admit does make me buy books as much as it does is when I do see something everywhere. And I think I have a different position because I do get a lot of books sent to me. And so I can open up my inbox right now and I have a ton of books just waiting, you know, but when I'm going to buy a book, it's like a perfect example, I think. And I mean, this book is huge, but it's 7 Days in June, but it was the Reese Witherspoon pick. So that meant it was on the Today Show. And then she was on Fated Mates, and she was on a bunch of podcasts, and she was reviewed everywhere. And I was like, oh, I gotta buy this book now, you know, like, because it was literally everywhere. And I mean, and I read it. It was great. It was amazing. So I'm glad that I did, you know, but sometimes, let's be honest here. We're all friends. We're all gal pals. sometimes that happens and it's not great, but I still bought the book. So, and I think that comes into it.
It does feel like there's a lot of books, and you're just sometimes, when you're not the book of the week, it's like, you're just throw in social media, like, and then every now and then somebody clicks on and they're like,
megaphone.
When you're not the book of the week, you're just like.
So I think it's interesting.
And that's, again, people don't realize that.
Right. Well, Jennie, also, like, if you see something everywhere and you feel like, okay, everyone's talking about this, like, I have to be a part of it too. Yeah. And so, right. But that's another like publishing thing. Like that kind of marketing steamrolling is like, that's not something that you as an author by yourself alone can generate. It's just not possible.
You can't. Yeah. And that's the thing. Like, if you're going to be a New York Times bestseller, you know that.
So like word of mouth, people talking about your book, people saying, "Oh my, this was so cute." Like that really helps. And I know for myself, there have definitely been a lot of books that I picked up because a friend has said this was so much fun.
Oh yeah.
And I think Hating Game was that kind of book. I think the Hating Game was very much a word of mouth, oh my God, this book was so much fun, you have to read it, kind of buzz that built until she's now become the kind of author that you see everywhere. But
that's Casey McQuiston's book, was an
mythical unicorns that doesn't happen all the time.
Yeah. I was about to say Casey McQuiston because I at the time I was editorial assistant working on that book, and that was something that just word of mouth right from the beginning. It was bananas to just say the response
is my agent too, Jennie. Sarah Casey and I share an agent, and so Sarah talks about it all the time, like. We didn't know when they were going to give her an illustrated cover. Sarah was like, "I thought illustrated covers were over," and that was 2018.
Yeah,
it was like, well, I think they're kind of over.
Little did we know.
Yeah. And she didn't say that. She says that laughing.
Yeah, retrospect. Yeah.
Years later.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so Jennie, we're all authors here. Writing can be so personal, and you come in and tell us to change things, these things we've written. But I want to know, how do you approach working with authors on something that they hold so dear? And I mean, we can also, if you want to, we can move into like, have you had to do this with Melanie? I'm kidding. I'm just putting on this. I'm joking. Totally joking.
You cannot do that to Melanie.
To be 100% honest, because I think at this point she knows me so well. She knows that I'm not precious about anything.
Yeah. But I want to know more, like, kind of what is it like? How do you approach just working?
Or maybe she has tiptoed and I don't know.
Yeah.
So I approach working with my author. I mean, I love working with all my authors that I get to work with. I have a great list of people. And I think the thing that I always try to do, even before I buy a book, when I know I want to get it, when I know it's like, okay, I'm going to be able to make an offer, I always try to get on the phone if I can with them just to talk, especially if I have edits that involve changing some plot things, changing some character things, sort of any kind of larger edit that sort of goes beyond line edits, or just sort of small, like, hey, let's tighten up this paragraph here kind of thing. So I always like to talk just to make sure we're on the same page, because I mean, it really is a partnership between an author and an editor. And I also never want an author to feel that they have to take my notes. I always say in my rather long, as Melanie knows, editorial letters, which are about like half really gushy, and then half sort of like, here's all the great things you did. Here's how I think we can make them stronger. And everything's up for discussion. Once you've looked it all over, like, let's hop on the phone, let's sort of discuss and chat, which, sometimes I am telling authors they need to scrap a whole side plot of a book, or that a chapter isn't working. But so I always want to have that discussion, because it's my opinion, and I never want author to feel like that I'm sort of taking away what they view this book as. I want to make the book the best it can be, but I want to sort of make sure that we're on the same page and we're working on it together. So that's sort of how I tend to always sort of approach working with all of my authors. And that's why I got into this. I love the creative process. I love sort of like getting into a book and thinking about all the emotional beats and the pacing and the character arcs and sort of all that fun stuff. So that's like, I love doing that. I'm always like, please, let's get on the phone because I do want to talk about this stuff.
I'm going to ask you a question about Melanie's book now. Who is like your favorite crazy animal side character from Too Good to Be Real? Because those were my favorite parts.
Bonnie and Clyde are my faves. Right from like the get-go, when Melanie was like, I'm gonna have some thieving seagulls, I was like, okay, yep, here for all of this. Like, let's have some thieving seagulls.
I love it. Yeah. Yes. And if you want to know more about the thieving seagulls, you've got to read Melanie's book because they're hilarious. And like just the right amount of like campy goodness that you need in the middle of a rom-com. It's so fun. So I would love for you, Jennie, to tell us what are some of the things that you are actively looking for right now?
So I'm really looking for some more women's fiction that kind of is similar to Practical Magic, or has kind of like a gothic sensibility to it. I love the sort of a creepy, isolated house kind of story. I'd also love to see more stories centered on female friendships and mother-daughter relationships. I'm always looking for, fresh new voices, sort of bring new perspectives to stories and sort of put a twist on tropes and things that we've seen before.
Awesome. Yeah. I mean, we have a question coming later that is kind of falls into that category, like about women's fiction and romance kind of. So yeah, that's perfect.
I wanted to, the earlier question, what Jennie was saying about the long letter, let's get on a call. You don't have to listen to everything I don't want my author to feel like they have to do everything I say. That's a relationship I have. My editor is Carrie Buckley with Carina Press, and it feels amazingly respectful. And it's very much the same thing. A long letter, read that, get back to me after you've processed it. And let's get on the phone. Now it's on a Zoom. Yeah. And let's talk through this. And I don't want you to do anything you don't think is necessary. I think a lot, when you're an aspiring author, you assume you're going to send a manuscript to an editor, especially once you've signed a contract, and that if they say anything to you, that's a failure. It's either a light switch off or off or on, and it's just not the case. And there's so much that you don't know about the industry, about your genre, about that you just don't know. And your editor has this amazing insight into how do you tweak what your essential voice and your essential story. How do you tweak that to make it a voice that everyone can understand and a story that everyone can understand? And if you have somebody who's approaching it the way Jennie does and the way that my editor does, which is we're a team. And I just think I really want to underline what you said about, like, I want my authors to know that they don't have to do what I say. Like, it's their story, that's an amazing, respectful way to go into it. But you're never going to send a manuscript. Ideally, you will never send a manuscript to an editor who goes like, yeah, nothing needs to be changed on it. And in fact, actually,
are you doing your job?
I know there had been a Twitter thread like 9 months ago about all of these authors saying, I've never gotten anything more than just like simple line edits. And I'm just like astonished because I've changed like half my books each time, which may not be ideal either, but to take the humor out of it, that's the kind of relationship you want with an editor. You want them to be looking holistically in a way that you as the creator just can't do. So I will step aside now, but I wanted to highlight how important what you said it was. And that, again, it's something that a lot of aspiring authors don't know. And it's important to know that in that first time that this happens, you haven't done anything wrong. What you're doing is working with a partner to make this book mass market ready.
Yeah.
I will stop
now. No, that was really great. So Jennie, what is a piece of advice that you have for aspiring authors? I know we've got a few, I believe, watching, so.
I would say if you don't have a writing community, if you don't have readers, I would say make friends, have that community, have the people who can read your book. I mean, I think that's sort of the great thing that I've found working, and especially with romance and young adult, the community is so great and so welcoming, and everyone is so supportive and great cheerleaders of each other. And I think having all of that as you're going on your writing journey, even if you're not really ready to be published just yet, but you're just starting out on your writing journey, to have that, I think, is so important. So definitely find your people.
Yeah, I like that. Melanie and Angelina, what's some writing advice you live by, and who gave it to you? Who wants to go first?
You can go first, Angelina.
Talking a lot.
That's fine.
You know, the Nora Roberts ass in chair. Nora Roberts would just always say, like, what's the magic? It's putting your ass in your chair. Susan Elizabeth Phillips talks a lot about putting on your big girl pants. Like, you're just not that special. You know, all of the problems you're having, so does every author. And not problems, you know, but yeah. As hard as writing is, it's just hard. But I'm a huge fan. Grant Faulkner is the head of NaNoWriMo, the organization that organizes NaNoWriMo. He did a book called Pep Talks for Writers, and it's my favorite writing book. But I actually, in anticipation of this question, he says, when you work regularly, inspiration strikes regularly. Like, I would love to say that there's this magic potion that provides the muse, and it just doesn't happen. If you want to be a professional writer, you treat it like a profession. You sit down every day. Some of those days suck. Some days you don't get words on the page, but when you sit down regularly, then inspiration comes regularly, and you have to treat it like a job. And Nora Roberts said that early when somebody talked about the number of books and a word count. She was like, what else am I doing from 8 to 5? Like, that's my job. People around me go to work from 8 to 5. I go to work from 8 to 5. And so having that kind of influence from an early stage as an aspiring writer was really like, you just sit down and get it done, as hard as it can be sometimes to get it done.
Melanie,
yeah, I think, like the Nora, ass and chair, hands on keyboard, that like, just do it. Like, I think a lot of that, like, so there was a romance conference I attended last winter. It was virtual because everything was virtual, and it was J.R. Ward gave a little talk, and what became like, I actually saved the clip because she did this thing where she's like, she has her listen fucker speech. And it's just her basically telling herself, like, you just got to do it. Like, yeah, all this other stuff is going on, all of these things, it's hard. Like you were saying, Angelina, it's hard. What we're doing is hard. And it's hard to make it happen, but listen, fucker, just sit down and do it. So I saved her listen, fucker speech on my phone and play it for myself.
That's amazing.
And J.R. Ward, like, nobody can
Yeah. You'll do what she says. Yeah, you're gonna do it if she tells you to. So so mine has a little bit of a story, but it was NaNoWriMo 2019. And I was like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to actually do it this year. But it was like 2 weeks in, I had barely written anything. And I was like, talking out loud, and my daughter was in the room. I was just like, I need to write something. I don't know what to do. And she was 5 at the time, very, very wise little lady. And she just looked at me and she's like, Mama, just write the book. And so I did, and that's the book that's being published next year.
Oh my God!
She just looked up at me.
Your daughter said it much more eloquently than J.R. Ward did.
But she did. She was like sitting on the floor right here and was like, Mama, just write the book. Like that. And
oh my God.
I know. And so that's why I did. That's why I wrote my book, because she told me to. And she still bosses me around, so.
I guess it's not as cute all the time, but that time it was super cute.
That time it was really nice, and it made me do it, so.
That's such a great story, Danielle. I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's my little. I feel like I always bring up my daughter at Boozy Book Rods at some point, so I had to do it again. Okay. So let's move on to our Ask Me Anything portion. Like I said, I think we had one come through in the comments. So if anyone else has more questions, put them in and we will get to them. But the first one came from Megan through our email, and she asked, is there a place in the market for manuscripts that fall somewhere in between rom-com and romantic women's fiction? Are they saleable, or is it crucial to fall into one category or the other? So Jennie, what do you think about that?
I think there are quite a few books that sort of seem to fall a little bit in between. And I do think as publishers, we do sort of want to figure out where in the market this is going to fit. We want to find the right authors, because I feel like there have been definitely some conversations around some, trade paper books and illustrated covers that people think are rom-coms, and then they open them up and they're like, oh, this is a lot more serious than I thought I was getting into. So I feel like that's a conversation that we're always having about the book. We want to make sure we're marketing it right, not only with the cover, but with the copy, and really sort of making sure that if it's a rom-com and it is tropey, it is fun, we are sort of positioning it more that way. But then romantic women's fiction is also really having a moment. I feel like that's also a growing thing because we've had so many rom-coms. So I think there's absolutely a place for something that kind of falls in between that. We're seeing a lot of people come to it. So yeah, I think that answers the question. Yeah, there's definitely a place for it.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's the ongoing, right now at least, I feel like almost every day there's a conversation about, is this a romance? Is this a rom-com? Is this women's fiction? I think, and it is, there is definitely some blurring of the lines there with contemporary romance in women's fiction, but it is nice to know. I mean, I like romantic women's fiction as well. I think it's super fun and yeah. Okay, next question. This is one that I got on Twitter in a DM, but it's, what's something in a query letter or a pitch that will make you request a full manuscript? And what's something that will make you delete automatically?
Well, all of my queries come from agents, and we only accept agented manuscripts. So I've never done that to an agent. I've never just sort of deleted it. I always say I'll take a look at it because I never sort of want to, judge something just based on a pitch. I sort of always want to take a look at the book itself, and because I'm like, who knows? Maybe I'll be a little surprised. But I think just for me, the only times when I've just said it's not for me, if the story sort of tends more towards like the literary side. I'm just not really a literary reader or editor. I'm not really working on nonfiction projects either. So those are sort of really the only times when I've said, please feel free to send to someone else at St. Martin's.
Yeah, that is good. I mean, I think that says a lot about you as an editor, because a lot of people do just kind of will look at something and if they don't like it, they just move on. So, I mean, I think that should hopefully give people hope that, people will sit down and really take their work seriously. I don't know, that makes my heart feel nice.
But I would say, sorry.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
I would say, since I, have a lot of friends who are agents and, who are looking, for new authors and everything like that, I know that they've said that what they also look for in, a pitch or query letter to them is an author who sort of knows where they fit in the market. Yeah. They know, the books that are doing really well. They sort of know where their book would sit on a shelf. So having that kind of knowledge of the market, I think, can also be very helpful when you're querying agents.
Yeah, that's really good advice.
So
yeah.
I would say if you feel like your book straddles, like you were saying, if you can find comp titles to what it is your book is, that would help you. So rather than say it's this and this, say it's like this. That's my suggestion.
Right. Yeah, I like that. And then this third question is no secret. It's from me. Okay, this is also, like I keep saying, I'm nosy. Are you able to read for fun? Like, can you turn your editor brain on and just read a book?
I am currently in a phase where no, I cannot read for fun. I have not read a book for fun. I don't know the last time I read a book for fun. Some editors are different. Some agents are different. But yeah, I am someone who I have a really hard time turning off my brain sometimes. And so I tried getting into audiobooks because like maybe if I listen, that'll like trick my brain a little bit. And that like kind of worked. I listened to a couple things on audio, but yeah, reading a book for fun is a little hard for me currently.
Jennie, it's hard for me too. And it's really difficult because I've got so many friends who are supporting my books and I want to do the same. And I love their books. I love the writing. I love everything, but I just, I've got a finite amount of time to do any relaxing, and I have a very difficult time with it. And I feel like I need to write a blog about my dirty secret I just don't. I read a lot of fan fiction. I found fan fiction to be like a place where my brain can relax, but I've actually just started getting back into reading again. I'm reading a Therese Bahari right now, and it's phenomenal.
Yeah.
Oh, is this the romance novel one?
What?
The one that's
Yeah, that's really good. You know what though, I could kind of feel the same way, because when I worked in publishing, especially like right at the beginning, it's like when you, this is gonna sound really weird, but when you learn how books are made, the magic kind of goes away a little.
We're trying to write books or sell books.
Yeah, exactly. So, but I still try to read as much as I can. Okay, so we've got one question. I think there are a couple. I'll have to scroll back up, but one.
The one question was retracted, but we do have one from Trisha about what kind of covers are happening for women's romantic fiction. You can speak to that.
I think we're still seeing illustrated really for that. That's sort of really the discussions that we've been having. There have been sort of, I think, more talks about like more like realistic illustrations. I think sort of the illustration style for a time was like very kind of like almost like people with no faces, and it was like very like broad strokes. And so I think we've been seeing people talking about more like really detailed illustrated covers. That's sort of really for the romantic women's fiction that like don't have a couple on them, because you don't want to play up the romance. You sort of want to play up, the woman's journey kind of thing, or play up the setting in some way. So you're taking, the second person off there, and you're really sort of making it all about that one character.
Yeah.
What was it? Tracy something. What is her name? Tracy Graves. What's the?
Oh, Tracy Graves. Yeah.
Yeah, like her books kind of have those kind of, they're illustrated, but there's definitely a different feel to them.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Yeah, I mean, Jennie, can you talk a little bit about our trade format versus the mass market paperback? I mean, all of us were raised as romance having this very, we knew where to find them. We knew what they were going to look like. We knew we could find them in the grocery store. I mean, what is that transition happening? And is that going to continue happening for a little bit as far? I'm just asking, can I just jump in there? Is it okay?
Yeah, no, please do.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly seems like the trade paper format is here to stay. It's just been so great to see. And like, this is on a personal note too, like my friends who never read romances, who never picked up mass markets, anything like that, they're coming to these trade paperbacks. And I think it's really bringing in a whole new just swath of readers who are like, oh, I just didn't think I liked romance, or I didn't know if I wanted to pick this up. And it's just sort of opening a lot of doors up for authors and readers in this format. And I think also because it's the trade paperback format, so the price point is really nice for a lot of people, especially. So I think, it's really working. People are really liking it, and the retailers are really liking it too. Yeah. So I think with mass market, I think it's sort of, since a lot of people buy, like when people were buying them at Borders, I think that sort of hurt the mass market format when Borders closed.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to sort of see, because I sort of came in like right in the midst of all of this transitioning, and sort of trade paper rom-com sort of coming back. Publishing is so cyclical. And so I feel like when the illustrated covers, as we were bringing these up in art meetings, saying, hey, we want illustrated covers, we want them to look like this, and some people were like, oh, like the Sophie Kinsella's, like back in the day, like sort of books like that they were mentioning. So it is funny how cyclical publishing is. Everything comes back around.
Yeah.
They released my first book.
Object covers are coming back next. That's my personal opinion. I think that
an apple, a tie. Did you say object covers?
Yeah, object covers.
Yeah.
I think that's very, very possible to come back, like the Emily Giffen or whatever her name was, that had just like. Yeah.
That they released my first book in trade paperback and trade, but my other two were in mass market. And one of the reviews was of one of the other two in mass market was like, I really like the book, but I didn't like the size. And I was like, you want to pay $4 more? You can just send me $4 more for the same book. But yeah, literally, I had a bad review because she didn't like the size, that it was a mass market paperback.
That's really
well, and now they have the new size. I know we're taking a detour, but now what do they call that? It's not mass market, but it's mass market bonus, or what is it?
Mass market max size.
Mass market max. So now they have, it's like a little bit bigger. Target is really into this. They have like a whole section of them now. And that's another publishing insider piece of information, is so much of what traditional publishing especially does, their decisions are a lot of times are made based on what the retailers are looking for and what they're buying.
Right.
And that's sometimes how deadlines get moved, how release dates get moved.
Yeah.
But so I know people who like their book size changed mid-series, and now readers are like, my books don't match.
Yeah.
They're very upset. Don't match.
That's great. So I want to move on to our nightcap. Usually this is where we have audience questions, but we don't have audience because we asked them already. So I thought we could just go around and talk about something that we've been reading or we've been watching or listening to, like podcasts or anything like that, that you really enjoyed and that you want to recommend. So Jennie, how about you?
Well, watching wise, since I just said that I haven't read anything in a while, I just finished Mayor of Easttown. Love Kate Winslet, anything she does, and that was really good. I thoroughly enjoyed that show, so I recommend if you like kind of like twisty thriller murder mystery shows.
I've only heard great things about that, so I'm definitely going to check it out. Melanie, what about you?
So let's see here. I started watching Normal People on Hulu, which was a book, and then it like took off, and so I'm watching that, and that like I'm kind of watching it in pieces. Yeah. So that's interesting. And then I just watched Soleil Punky Brewster. See Punky Brewster of the 90s. She did like kind of like she had all these video diaries that she made as a teenager. And she kind of put together a docuseries based on all these video diaries and things that she made as a teenager. So it's very fascinating look at that. Like it was called Kid 90, I think. And it's also on Hulu. And fascinating, especially because like we're almost the exact same age, Punky Brewster and myself.
Yeah.
So kind of just growing up in that time period and the stuff. So it was really interesting. So I watched that.
Awesome. Angelina, what about you?
I loved Mayor of Easttown. Kate Winslet was talking extensively about, she said people have a hunger to see women unglamorous in the 40s. Like we are not showing that, and really advocated that. And it's still Kate Winslet. Like there's certain scenes where I'm like, it's still Kate Winslet. So she can't, but really it is. And I agree. I was like, yeah, I mean, the phenomenal success of that show really proved that women being in the 40s and not being perfect and not being these perfect mother figures is people are hungry for. So love that. The big thing I've been binging on is The Great Pottery Throwdown. That's so fun. It's the most amazing show. It's HBO Max, and it's by the producers of the Great British Bake Off, but it's pottery. And so it's all of that like beauty that they attach to it, but this is like in this old, like where they did all the pottery. And so it's got, I don't know, it's just very atmospheric. And then, and like they all cheer for each other. And one of the judges cries all the time. Like every time somebody does good pottery, like somebody shows him like a teapot, and he is like this 6'4", 230-pound guy who gets so overwhelmed by his creative
thing over a vase.
Cries. And then I cried, and my husband crying. This big, burly English guy crying over a teapot makes us all cry. So
I love that.
Highly recommend.
Okay, so now I know what I'm doing tonight.
The reason I started watching that was because Avery Flynn recommended that on her podcast, The Dear Romance Writer. It's Zero Axelrod, Avery Flynn, and Roan Parrish are doing a love advice podcast.
Yeah.
Send it, and so it's like romance writers giving love advice, and it's brilliant, and I highly recommend it. So
you were a guest on it. And
I was a guest, but only because I loved it so much that I was writing them like once a week. I could love this show, when can I be on? Love the show, when can I be on? And I've also I think it was Talia Hibbert was on it. Talia Hibbert was on it.
Yeah.
So yeah,
that's really fun.
Phenomenal podcast.
Yeah, I highly recommend. I love that podcast as well. And they get really good questions and they give really good advice.
They give such good advice. Like, they're so wise. And I thought, I was like, oh, I've got this. And I got on the show and I was like, I don't know. What do I know about love? It's really hard. They give a really good advice. Yes, yeah. I recommend.
They really do. Going off of the pottery show, I've been Making It on NBC, just restarted. I think it's a few episodes in, and it's like, if you want something to fill the like Great British Baking Show void, like this is it. And you get to see Amy Poehler and Nick Offerman like just having a great time making jokes. It's so good. And then also I want to give a shout out to this show it's on Peacock, the NBC streaming service, but you can watch it for free. It has ads, but you can just watch it for free. But it's We Are Lady Parts. It's a British show. It's about a punk band, and they're all Muslim women. And they're all different. And, there's like kind of the main storyline is about the lead guitarist, and she kind of joins the band, but she has stage fright. But then on the flip side, she's also trying to decide if she wants her parents to pick or put her in an arranged marriage, like to go very traditional. There are other women, they're all just trying to figure out their place in life. And it's really relatable, but it also has Muslim representation, which I think is so important. You don't see this every day. I think they're like 30 minutes. There's 6 of them. They're really easy to watch. Highly recommend it. Even if you don't like punk music, it's really cool. So
sounds so awesome, Danielle. I'm definitely gonna watch that.
Same. I can't wait to start that now. It sounds great.
I think it is a UK show, and so I don't know if they've had a second season yet, but I think it has not gotten like the love that it needs to hopefully have the second season come to the US. So everyone watch the show because I love it so much. Okay, so I think that brings us to the end of things. I want to thank Jennie, of course, for coming on and letting us pick her brain for the last hour. This has been so amazing. In the chat, Trisha just recommended Starstruck, and I watched the first episode yesterday, and it's so good. It's on HBO Max. It's delightful. Anyway, thank you, Jennie, for coming on. This is so great.
Thank you so much for having me. This was so fun.
Yeah, this is so great. Melanie, before I forget too, why don't you pick our winner of an LSA gift card?
It's my turn to pick the winner today. So I'm going to go, it's very high tech here how we do this. It's going to be in the chat. Lisa Bennett Polakaja. You are the winner. So Lisa BB, you're the winner. So email us at boozybookbroads@gmail.com and we will get you your $10 gift card to Love Sweet Arrow.
Yes. So yeah, my final update is everybody go to lovesweetarrow.com. You can get signed books of Angelina's books and Melanie's books. Check out the sultry summer surprise boxes because we had so much fun putting them together, and you can use a discount code BBB July discount all together for 10% off, and definitely take advantage of that because you get a lot of cool stuff. And the only way you find out what's in it is if you look at Twitter or if you order one. So please order one and find out because they're all different. Every single one, they're all totally different. So yeah, cheers everyone. This was great. I had a great night. And thanks everyone for watching.
Joining us tonight.
Thank you so much for taking part. This was
we'll
awesome.
see you in August when summer's over.
I know. All
Oh
right.
yeah, next month our guest is JC Lee.
Yes.
Yeah, October.
Yes.
August.
Is that one of the months that you're gone, Angelina?
No, I'm here next month, and I'm the host. But I August something. Join us the third Friday in August. Always the third Friday in August. I can't remember. But yeah, JC Lee will be our guest with The Dating Dare. The book will be. Yeah, super excited about.